Good morning, traders. It is Friday. It's the end of the week. And OPEX is upon us. OPEX. What is OPEX? OPEX is options expiry day. I'm sure that some of you, if not all of you, know this. But for those of you that don't, OPEX is a big deal. Specifically, this one is important because there's so many options today that are expiring. We had our friend Andrew from Real Pristine Cap on Wednesday, and he told us 30% of all open options contracts are expiring today. It's a lot. I read last night about $2 trillion worth of options are expiring today. These sorts of events can affect markets. How can they affect markets? Well, we're about to find out. We're about to find out. The market has just opened. We did gap down overnight. And we're trying to gain back some of what we gapped down here in the early pre-market session. Market's open. Anxious to see where the market gods take us today. We're at 425 on the SPY. Q's the laggard of the three as far as a recovery from the gap down. The IWM also lagging of the three. So it looks like the strongest mover this morning, at least pre-market, out of the gap down is the SPY. I'm going to take a look real quick at energy. Britsu, my man, how are you doing today? Hope you're well. Lots of talk about energy these days. Lots of talk about the dollar. Energy opening inside yesterday's move. It'll be interesting to see where we go today. My gut instinct tells me that the market makers who run the show when it comes to options, I have a feeling they're going to come after everybody. Just my gut instinct. And when I say come after everybody, the best way to attack both sides of the options contracts, the longs and the shorts, the calls and the puts, is to pin price, right? Just don't move price. Got a bunch of people who got a bunch of calls outside the money. Got a bunch of people who got a bunch of puts outside the money. Just don't move price. Let those things expire worthless. So that's a bit what I'm anticipating today. Now, of course, I could be totally wrong. They could totally go in any direction here. But I got a little bit of a feeling that they might just go sideways. But we'll have to keep an eye on it. What are you guys watching this morning? Britsu, what you got your eye on, man? And everybody who's watching, please do say hello. I love to get to know anybody and everybody who comes on these streams. So please say hello. Let me know where you are. Tell me your name. Tell me where you're trading from. Would love to get to know you. Lori, how are you doing today? Hope you're doing well. What are you watching? Britsy's watching SPY. I mean, so we've done a lot of what we've kind of been talking about, you know, as we've been slowly gaining levels. We've been coming into lots of important levels. We've been coming into levels that we've been watching for price to come into. It's really not too huge of a surprise to see price stalling a little bit here. IWM is really leading the charge as far as the stall. But IWM was the most progressed. You know, IWM really came into those April 20th highs. These bad boys right in here. And right into the anchored VWAP from the all-time high. Logical place for it to pause a little bit, catch a breather. Broke outside of the ascending channel on the 30 and 65. Let's take a look at that real quick, Britsu. So I suppose you're kind of referring to, like, I don't know, this? Somewhere thereabouts? Not really an ascending channel drawing kind of guy. Not to say that there's anything wrong with it. If that's what works for you, that's what works for you. But is this what you're talking about, Britsu? I have to assume that's about it. Lori, you're watching the cues. Lori, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's a little bit early for me right now. But I mean, I'm always up this time. I'm just not usually live at this time. So I wanted to be here just to kind of chat with you guys, answer any questions that you have, and just watch the markets this morning. So today's going to be a bit of a chill day, a bit of a chill morning for me. Not taking any trades just yet. Kind of want to let this thing play out and just see what we do here. Looks like they are currently holding these lows right here. Looks like they barely front ran them. I'm personally going to talk through some of my personal concerns of what I'm looking for. You know, we got this big gap up on that Fed raise day when they announced that 75 bips hike the last time they announced the 75 bips hike. We got a big spot right here that price hasn't come back into. You guys know I love my untested levels. If anybody has any questions about that, happy to answer them. But this spot right in here, 412.92, quite concerned about that spot. If we go and we look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin has that spot. Let me go to like a bigger time frame here. Came right into it today. I believe that's about on the same. I'll have to check and see. July 27th-ish. Oh, August 10th. Okay, so never mind. It's not created at the same time, but it's the same type of idea. Bitcoin had it, though. I want to see it. I don't know if Ether or Sol or any of the other big cryptos had it. I bet that they did. Popping through some crypto. Yeah. So here's your August 10th move. Coming right back in. And whenever you see big moves like this, these big green or big red bars, where price doesn't really go sideways, doesn't really consolidate, just makes a big old move, you almost always expect price to come back into that area. And that's what it's done. It's backfilled it. Didn't hold it very nicely. I guess looks like maybe they're trying to hold somewhere down here. These lows. Probably this guy. Yeah. But you know, for now, this is just a pullback. It's just a retracement. This isn't super scary just yet, in my opinion. I think it's just a technical little pullback. Sol's getting very close. I don't know if anybody watches Solana, but Sol's getting very close to being worrisome. They did hold a higher low here, which is about what they needed to do to save this thing. So we're keeping our eye on cryptos because cryptos led the charge higher. They were the first to move really higher ahead of even IWM. And the SPY and the Qs. So we're keeping our eye on them, seeing what's going on. Getting a little more of a pullback here on this open. A little bit of weakness. Retesting some of that stuff from this morning. So we'll just have to see how they let this play out. We got to keep in mind OPEX. OPEX is such a big deal today. If it weren't OPEX, if it weren't Friday, I mean, every Friday, you know, it's a big options expiry day. All of your weeklies are coming to meet their maker today. But since it's OPEX, and we know that tons of options are expiring today, the thing to know is, where are the most of the options? I wonder where your average calls and puts are. That's some data that I would like to have. For instance, we're trading 424.75 on SPY right now, right? If most of your calls are at 430 and most of your puts are at 420, this would be a very, very clean place for them to pin price action, and just make everybody expire worthless. I don't know if that's where they're at. Oh yeah, Lori, I'm totally following ETH. All day long following ETH. I got my start trading in crypto. So Ethereum came to a really big technical level, these previous highs, and got stalled. I believe that there might be an anchored VWAP around here too. No, not that one. Maybe this one? Ah, no, not that one. Just coming back into that one. I mean, again, this isn't super scary just yet. You know, we haven't really, all we're doing is really retracing. We have a huge area that we broke out from back in July, that whole consolidation phase in June and July. We never have really retested it at 1250 level. I would not be shocked to see us back there at some point. I don't know when. We're getting close. They're trying. Here's a big important low. I said like 1650. If they take out this low, or they take out even this low here, 15.6. If they start losing these lows, then that suggests potentially that we might be going to drift. Or we might drift lower over the coming weeks and or maybe months. But the expectation, if they do that, would be that they would go back and test higher first. So if they start taking out lows, then you start getting into exhaustion risk, meaning the move to the downside is overdone. So they'll have to bounce it at some point. So we'll look for places upside where they could come back to. So just the same way as we look for where price breaks out and never comes back in, we look for price breaks down, never comes back up. So one spot I see is right in here, at 1815 level. That could be important at some point. Not necessarily today, not necessarily next week, but it could be important at some point. Likely will be. So we'll be watching that. But really, a move back into that 12 and a half wouldn't surprise me at all. Totally think it could come. And that would be where we'd be looking for opportunities to potentially hold and go long. We'll see. We'll see what happens when it gets there. I think if BTC breaks 2100, it will fall to 1400. Let's take a look at BTC. I mean, it's a really important spot for it to be holding, I think. This 21.4. Because again, like I said, a big spot. You know, big extension, never really came back to it. Now we've come back to it. Right back into it. So we'll see how this holds. We'll see how it plays out, if it holds. You want it to hold here if you're long. You want it to hold here if you're bullish. If we go to a bigger time frame. Could we go lower? Of course we could. We could come back into 13 and a half. Like you said, Britsu, about 14. We come back into 11 and a half. 100%. And wouldn't be a huge surprise if we did, really, would it? It's not looking good yet. I will say that. It's looking pretty kind of dire here. Really needs to hold. You got a spot up here. If they're able to hold it, that 29 area, 29, 30. Suppose if they take it to 29, why not just take it to 30? Would make sense. Let's see what the anchored VWAP is from all-time high. Anchored VWAP from all-time high is at 37. Excuse me. Let's see what anchored VWAP is from this high. Anchored VWAP from this high, that's a little bit more like it. 28.3. Yeah, you know, it's just hard to know. It's hard to know kind of what to expect. You try and do the best you can with your expectations. This weekly candle on the SPY, not looking great, is it? Nice little shooting star, little candle. Ooh. So what are they doing here? Are they breaking pre-market lows? Not yet. They're trying. Interesting. And look at where they're holding it. They're holding it right kind of where, at least for now, they're holding it right kind of where they should. We'll see if they continue to do so. I just don't personally see them selling the market off big time today. Sure, they certainly could, but I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. Because then one side of the options chain wins, right? If they sell it off really hard today, I sure don't know. What are you guys' thoughts? What do you think we do today? How does the market react to OPEX? What do you think? Max Pain on SPY, Sammy baby. Max Pain on SPY, 414. Let's talk about that 414 level. Yeah, I mean, definitely could come. Wouldn't shock me if it came. Would not shock me at all. 413, 414. Could totally see it. Totally. They're bouncing right at the spot where you'd kind of think they would. Now we'll see if they're able to make a move a little bit higher here. What is what's IWM doing? IWM breaking down below pre-market lows, and that's not a great look. IWM has been our leader, so don't really want to be seeing that. But as well, what could occur, IWM has been our leader. So not surprised to see it to be the leader down. It's been the leader up. Let it be the leader down. Question is, will money rotate out of IWM and into SPY, into the Qs? So far, that's not what's going on, right? Let's see if we can find any spots where IWM might catch a bid. First obvious spot looks about here, 194.5. Pretty decent spot where they broke those highs. Below that, you got a little bit of Goblin Town back to 190, huh? Are they holding this low? They've lost the lows here that they were trying to hold over the past couple of days. Right in here. So now we can look for a retest. Since they've lost, look for them to come back into it, bounce it. See what they do when they get there. If they're able to fail it, that might be a decent place to take a short idea. Looks like they just filled this gap here, this pre-market gap. What's up with the Qs this morning? Qs in a little bit better of a spot. Still not great. You guys can kind of see where my head's at, where price came in. This is like 324.5 level. We were able to get above it. We held it, went higher. So kind of a key pivot somewhere in here. Right there right now. So I'll have to see how Qs hold up. SPY might be in a similar spot. Yep, pretty similar. Trying to hold. So SPY and the Qs holding on. IWM, not so much. But IWM is further along in its move. Again, we could talk about it real quick. And I'm specifically talking about this area in here. This is April 20th, 420. Price came right into those 420 highs and got rejected. If we go SPY, see those 420 highs? They're a little ways away. Not quite there yet. Does SPY need to follow? I don't know. It doesn't necessarily. Nothing absolutely needs to happen, but it's just interesting to see SPY lagging there. QQQ, same idea. Here's your 420 area. So the markets are not happy this morning, is what it appears. The markets are very unhappy. SPY coming in. SPY coming into pre-market lows here. Interesting to see if they end up holding these. Kind of a big spot to hold. But with IWM failing, oops. I'm over here typing on my other screen. With IWM lost those lows a while ago. What's up, Brad? How we doing, buddy? Watching Sark. Chewy, how are we? Hope you're well. Let's check out what's going on with Sark. Oh, interesting. Came right into a spot, right into those right into those lows and held them. Very nice. Held them almost to the penny. I don't know when I drew this line, but it was a decent line to draw. Anchor VWAP from the high, can't deny. And right into, so if you're an anchored VWAP user, you know that you always want to re-anchor. When we make a definitive move away, we've done that right here on the 30th of June, and we're up into that anchor VWAP. It's come into play before. Came into play in early July or mid-July, came into play in late July, and coming into play now. Could be a good spot for a little bit of selling to occur. But they did hold a higher low. It's kind of interesting in a bit of a bigger, longer-term consolidation, looks like, because you made a lower high. But a nice hold on that bottom. Hard to be a long buyer here. Would rather see it break higher and then come back in and maybe look to make a higher low. Because on the short term, right, on a near term, you're in quite a downtrend. But bigger time frame, you've just come off of that low. So that 46 level was a pretty great place to try along. They filled that gap almost to the T. Really, really clean. What is this? AXS short. So it's like a short arc innovation. This is kind of just an inverse, right? An inverse against the market. Inverse against the Qs. So Qs, low of day. Yikes. Have we taken out pre-market lows? Yes, sir. So now we're looking for areas lower that could catch. Kind of at one. Interesting. Interesting indeed. Somewhere in here. Really need to hold it. If you're bullish. If you're bullish. Oh, man, that gap below is just asking to get filled, isn't it? That gap below is asking to get filled. But do they do it today? I just don't think they will. If they do, that would be... Actually, I would be stoked on that. I would see that as an interesting opportunity for next week. But I just don't know if they're going to actually do that. But wow, that would be interesting. Very, very interesting action today. The market definitely seems a little spooked here. Definitely seems a little spooked. VIX, what's up with VIX? Let's take a look at VIX. Very interesting. Just barely holding these higher lows on VIX. Could see 2140. Certainly possible. Come back into where we lost. And they're trying to kind of do that now. Huh. Wow. So let's see here. Looks like SPY trying to catch a bid. Lower time frame. We've taken out the pre-market lows. So exhaustion risk against the pre-market lows, right? You take out the low. You probably had a bunch of people who had stops there. They just took them out. So now, what are they going to do with it? Are they gonna hold it and bounce it? This is the question. Hit on IWM, same exact thing happening. Market's trying to find a bid here. IWM didn't quite make it to those previous highs. Actually, I bet right in here. Yeah, there it is. Very interesting spots. Very interesting spots that these guys are catching bids. QQQ holding, just barely holding that higher low. Will they fill this thing today? I just don't know. I just don't know. Sammy baby, IWM max pain 190. Yeah, thereabouts. I don't know if that's like max pain forever, but that's definitely a spot. It's a huge spot. It's that gap up. I think I'm going to start looking for longs. Brad, are you still here? Bradley? What are you looking at? What's up, Matt? If Apple loses pre-market lows, I see more downside. Coffee kicking in Orange County, CA. Good morning, Matt. Let's look at Apple. Apple's been basically the strongest stock in the market. Pre-market lows at 172.30. 172.20 rather. Trying to catch a bid here. Everything's trying to bounce here. So the big question is, do they take it another leg lower? Are they actually able to hold things here? Holding Apple. Let's let me add. I'm going to add. Actually, let me just do that. There we go. So what's strong today? 10-year Treasury notes are strong today. UVXY is strong today. The dollar is strong today. Now this is a big deal, you guys. For real though. This is a big deal. The dollar making its way for another new high is worrisome if you want to be long stocks. Why? Because there is an inverse correlation. Not always, but there is currently. Inverse correlation between the dollar and stocks. Dollar goes up, stocks generally go down. And the reason why, or part of the reason why we've been grinding higher over the past couple of weeks on the stock side is because we've been going down on the dollar side. The dollar has been losing value, yeah? So now the dollar is getting more expensive. We're gaining. And so we're losing value on our stocks. Big level to watch here, this $29 area on UUP. What are they going to do when they get to it? Could get a little reaction here. Might not get much of one. They held a higher low. Looks a lot like this, right? What we've got right now. This section of our chart. Looks very similar to this section of our chart. Looks like they are catching a bid. SPY's catching a bid here. They're trying to hold things. It's a decent opportunity to take a long right there, huh? So this is the spot to hold at this point. 423. This is the place to hold. A nice untested spot. Kind of right in here. And they held it really nice. So that's interesting. Nice, Britsu. Glad you were able to take that long. On my end, I'm trading the ES futures. So I've got a little long position here. I had a really tight stop below today's low. Really want to see them hold that and kind of bring this back some. We'll see if they do it. They definitely could. Always like to know where the anchored VWAP from the previous day lives. I want to know where the anchored VWAP from the current day is. Or just the, you know, that's just your standard VWAP. Where's our VWAP at? Always want to know. I also always want to know where the VWAP is from the previous day. Because we don't have that much price action right now, right? So there's not much to go off of. Obviously, everybody today on average is losing on this trade. Average buyers in at about 424. It's trading about 50 cents lower. But really what's interesting is yesterday's. You know, that's a little bit more reasonable of a metric. If we're able to gain back some of that gap, we might run into some overhead supply at our VWAP from yesterday. So VWAP from yesterday is somewhere, you know, it closed the day at 427 and 426 and change, essentially 427. If we include today's price action, it's dipped a bit. One thing they may do here is they may go for these lows. We'll have to watch it. They try to put in a little bit of a bottom here, but it takes a little time. One thing I'll be looking for is some divergence on RSI. If RSI makes a new low against the current ones, how does RSI look when that happens? Could take a little time. May even need to come back up to the anchored VWAP today and reject. Looks like they're trying to at least take it there. So we'll watch and see how this plays out. If you guys have any stocks you want me to take a look at, I'm happy to do that. I'll be here for the next 2 hours or so. So do hit me with your ideas. Yeah, Britsu, I mean, this is tricky, kind of a scary place to take along. But usually, and I don't know if you find this to be true, but I tend to find this to be true. When I am the most scared to take any position, a long or a short, when I am the most scared to take a position, that's usually the best time to be doing it. That fear is oftentimes a pretty decent sign. So it looks like they're trying to fail it a little bit here. Could make a new low. Be interesting to see if they do. I want to see them hold it about right here. Wonder what the IWM's doing. Yeah. Okay, so they might be trying to make a new low here. Let's see if they do it. Again, we're watching RSI too. Looks like they held. Or they're trying to hold it. Let's look for levels lower. Just in case they decide that they want to do that. We do have a gap right here. 420. They're trying to hold it here. Had to be quick on that play, Britsu. Had to be real quick. Thoughts on Pan W? Let's take a look. So I don't know exactly what Pan W does. What do they do? I know they got earnings on Monday. So first things first, earnings on Monday means I would not touch this. Because why? Not really a good reason. Unless you are just absolutely cybersecurity. Got it. Okay. So first thought is make firewalls. Interesting. I wouldn't touch it simply. I mean, it's just me personally. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I'm saying it's a day before earnings. I would just wait for earnings to happen. That said, let's see. It's kind of a tricky one. Obviously, that 528 area, 527.15, 528. Obviously, that's important, right? I mean, you can see it clear as day. Let's just call it 530. 530 is wildly important. If we go to the weekly, what kind of throws me a little bit is that we've got some lower lows. Now, technically, it could just be a retrace. This is untested, kind of like Bitcoin. This looks very much. I'm just drawing a parallel. I'm not saying that this looks like Bitcoin, but I'm saying check out this big green candle here that they never came back into. I'm gonna go to Bitcoin real quick. I'm gonna go to the daily. See the same idea? Big green candle they never came back into. Well, they've come back into it now. And this is what you would expect them to do to retest it, to see. You know, they've made some higher highs, boom, 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 and they come back in to see if they're going to hold that low. So, what's up, Connor? How we doing? Hope you're well. So we go back to PANW, we go back to the weekly, and we see something that looks awful similar. Price hasn't come back into it. Now, price did retrace some here on the last earnings. Looks like they tried to retrace back into those previous highs, but they didn't even get those. So this could find its way back to this 376 level at some point. I'm not saying it's going to happen on Monday when they announce earnings. I'm just saying that it's in play. Like that could happen at some point, and we got to be mindful of it. And the thing that worries me is you have new lows. You know, you have the low that brought you all the way up, and we took out that low. So kind of where my head would be at on it, I'd be looking up here back to like 527 if you get a move higher. I'd be looking somewhere in here for a potential opportunity to short and take it down to 376. That's just me. You know, I could be totally wrong. Bigger time frames. You're holding lots of higher lows. So yeah, you could certainly, that may not happen, you know? You may just have great earnings and continue higher. Obviously, cybersecurity is super important, you know? We all need it more and more with each passing day. So it certainly could continue higher. I don't know enough about the company to have an assumption on how their earnings are going to be. I don't know enough about their earnings to know how price tends to react at them. I mean, we can look at them. You know, you had an earnings date in February, and we had a huge move. Brought us to our high, essentially. You had earnings on May 19th. Again, a nice move off of those earnings. You had a big gap and go on their earnings, looks like in August of last year, this time last year. So 3 out of the 4 earnings dates, 3 out of the 4 last earnings dates have been, you know, a really powerful moves to the upside. Looks like you had a little weak one in November last year. It just wasn't as powerful. You still got a move higher ultimately, but it pretty much consolidated that whole quarter. You made new highs, but you also made new relative lows, huh? So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of where my head would be at. It's that big lower low here in May that kind of throws that makes me a little bit suspect. You know, in theory, you kind of would have wanted to see them hold this low here. After we made the new high, you would have wanted to see them hold this low. And they tried to, didn't they? They tried to right here on this candle. They tried to hold it, but they ultimately ended up failing it. So that's concerning to me. Hack. Yeah. Interesting. Same kind of deal. Excuse me. Is the weekly. You kind of would have wanted to see them hold these lows, but they did make a new low technically. Doesn't mean we can't continue higher, but that new low is slightly concerning to me. So I don't know. I like I say, I wouldn't touch it before earnings anyway. It doesn't matter how good it looks. I wouldn't touch it before earnings. CRM is another that has earnings real soon. I don't know what they did today. Okay, so they broke down today. But man, this thing has been getting tight. They had 3 inside days. 3 inside days in a row. I guess yesterday wasn't technically inside, but it's essentially inside. And they broke it to the downside. What is SPY doing now? Did SPY make a new low? Looks like it's at low a day. Yep, made a new low. Okay, so we've made a new low. What has RSI done in that time? And we're just on a small time frame. We do have to keep this in mind. We're on a small time frame. But we've made a new low. And RSI has not. So maybe a little bit of divergence forming here. You know, RSI is gaining. Only by a little bit, not by much. Looks like, what, 19.41, 18.2. So a little bit of RSI divergence here. Might be trying to form a bit of a bottom. Trying to find a bottom. So we watch and see how tight this gets. Kind of got a bit of a falling wedge pattern happening. So now we watch and we wait. And we see if they're able to get this nice and tight. And then they break. This is technically an accumulation pattern. Whether or not it will play, we don't know. But this is technically an accumulation pattern. So we look for a move up and out, and then we look for a retest. And we want to see a higher low on that retest. If we can get a higher low on that retest, that might be our green light to consider a long here. Keep a close eye on this one. So similar looks, very similar looks as far as I mean, obviously, again, keep in mind, small time frames. We're just looking at a 1 minute time frame, but we're getting the same type of looks. So they made a new low. They stopped everyone out who had stops below the previous low, and now they're trying to turn it back. So now we watch and see if they gain. Can they make a new high, a higher high, above this one? 324.39 on the Qs. $423.5 or so on SPY. Want to see a new high. If we can make a new high, we get a little move, we get a little correction. We pull back. Yeah, I got out of NEM. Thanks for the heads up, Chewy. I got out of it the other day. It just wasn't showing any strength. It's been enough time chilling there. Like they should have, if they were going to move it, I feel like they should have. So this to me looks like they're more than likely going to break it down below that 44 level. I think I got out like 2 days ago on this trade. I lost money on the trade. It was a very small position, so it wasn't a huge deal, but this trade did not end up working out for me. I mean, they could hold it here. This is like their last ditch effort to hold it, if they're gonna. We'll see. So this may be the beginning of a break. Maybe. Sometimes they like to put in a third new low. Just have to kind of keep an eye on it. But they're trying to find a bottom here, is what it looks like to me. It looks like they're trying to find a bottom. They did not make a new high. Really want to see them make a new high. So yeah, Manish, regarding PANW, that's my thought. I know it's not the greatest outlook in the world if you're long. And again, like I said, I'm one person. It's just one guy's opinion. I could be totally wrong about it. And that's okay. However you're planning your trade, I hope it works out for you. CNC, a leader today, but failing a new high. Oh, it's on the 1 minute. Oops. CNC a leader today. So energy kind of leading, just generally speaking. This is one I was paying attention to. Cortera. What else was I looking at? Ooh, end phase down pretty good today. Back to the previous high, the breakout high. Whoa. And the anchored VWAP from the gap and go. That's kind of an interesting spot to be long off of if you're interested in being long end phase. Interesting because it's a, decent, it has a good stop, right? It's a pretty safe stop below those two levels. What is Tesla doing? That's a good question. It was down 883. Didn't quite make a new high. Barely made a new high. and did not get above its previous high, 956.71. I mean, you really want to see it make a new high, and it didn't. So that's not great. You have a gap down here, 752. Anchor a couple of VWAPs here and just see where we're at. So they kind of did this. They kind of tested this breakout already. What's the deal with, let's just throw some, so many people watch that 20 SMA. Holding the 20 for now. Trying to put in a higher low, essentially, right? Back testing the previous low. So for now, it could just be, you know, just... It does kind of look like a double top, but we won't know. You know, we won't really know. At least, you know, we need to be making new lows, and we haven't yet. And specifically this low here. You know, I mean, that's kind of a big, important pivot low, right? So if we fail below that, then that'll be interesting. But until we do that, it could just be, you know, the same thing as we saw here. You could have said the same thing, you know, this could have been a double top. And then they came back into the low, and then they just kept gaining. So we may just continue flagging out here. Right? That's totally possible. It's also, though, totally possible that we could lose and then come back and then fail. So, who knows? You want Meta at 153. Man. I don't know. If Meta goes back to 153, Chewy, you had lots of chances to get it there. You had lots of chances. If it goes back there again, what does that start looking like to you? It starts looking to me like it's going to break down. I want to see 153 hold. And they've held it so far. I mean, it's a huge level. It's a really important one. They've held it a bunch of times. But you got to start wondering if they come back to it, if they keep coming back to it, at some point it's not going to hold anymore. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, you could try long off 153 if they get back there, but I'd keep that stop tight because I would almost expect if it gets back there again, they're probably going to take it lower. And another thing that's kind of concerning, what didn't we do? We did not make a new high. We still could, of course, but we did not yet. Now, if this chart were reversed, and it were moving to the upside instead of to the downside, would you expect when price, if it comes back into 153, would you expect it to go, you know, imagine it flipped upside down. Would you expect it to break? I think I kind of would. Because it held, if this were upside down, it would then have held a higher low. Right? It held this low if this were upside down. In this case, it failed this high. It did not make a new high. So, it held, and now it's reversing. I don't know. I think Facebook... I've been extremely bullish on Facebook for some weeks here. I thought that level, that 153 area, was really important and could be really powerful and should hold. And now it's kind of back testing. I mean, you can see it really pretty clearly here. I mean, it's loose, but you had a big flat top area. Price couldn't break through. It finally broke through. Now it's coming back in to test it. So, you know, really, like, this is where you want to see it hold, in my opinion. You want to see it hold somewhere around where it's at. If it starts making its way back into 153, I'd be getting more and more nervous about being long. I think my line in the sand would be kind of like 162 or so. Let's see. Yeah, so I just threw up the auto trends. Love the auto trends because I'm not much of a diagonal trend line drawer. So sometimes I have trouble knowing where to draw them. The auto trends makes that very, very simple for me. Boom. And yeah, Britsu. Super, super clean, right? It's right there. Now, let's talk about this. We were talking about trying to find a bottom on the SPY. On the minute time frame. But the theories and the ideas remain the same. What are we doing? Making lower lows. You know, pretty clear. That's easy to see. Making lower lows, and what is RSI doing at the same time? RSI making higher lows. So you've got some big divergence on RSI telling you that it's trying to find a bottom. So then you really need to see like a breakout of this kind of wedge thing that it's doing, that it's been doing for a couple of months now. You need to see it come in and hold a higher low. And this could take some time. And it might be even. Let me turn this off real quick. Yeah, this. So maybe that's what we're doing, you know? Maybe we're going to come back in and try and hold some higher lows here. Kind of breaking out, trying to break out of this. This is, you know, this is a big long time frame version of a downward wedge, which oftentimes are accumulation patterns. So we'll see. Connor asking about Walmart. Yeah, so Walmart gained a big level. Let's look at the daily. So it's doing the opposite of what Amazon did, isn't it? Amazon had this big gap up. You had a couple of kind of doji type of island candles and gained. So Walmart is losing. Walmart is failing. You can always anchor VWAP from the start of this. It's what I'm always going to do. You know, you need to know where your buyers are from that gap up. And currently they're all losing on the trade. Coming back into the previous high. That gap down high here. And trying to hold it, 137.5. I don't know. I mean, I would kind of anticipate this is going to fill, but I anticipated it was going to fill on Amazon too, and Amazon went the completely different way. See, Amazon had the same look, but broke higher. Trying to lose the VWAP from that gain too, from that gap up today on Amazon. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would try calls on... Was that what you're asking about? Yeah, I don't know if I would try calls on this. I mean, you certainly could. You certainly could, but... I definitely wouldn't do it today. I'd wait till Monday. Walmart losing its 200-day moving average, so a gap just over it and failing below it now. Britz, you mentioned the 200-day on Amazon. Yep, right into it. I know that everybody's watching the 200-day moving average. I just don't give it that much credence, personally. I don't pay a ton of attention. And I think that the reason why is because it's just, I get why everybody, or I get that everybody watches it, and I get that makes it important, self-fulfilling, yada yada. But I mean, and price action does respect it, like, to a degree, but it's not super clean. You know, it's not like some perfect price gets right to it, stops, bounces, or price gets, you know, whatever. Like it oscillates around it. So it's something to know, right? We are coming into those levels on lots of things. The 200 right here on SPY. I mean, that is clean. That is a clean rejection. And SPY does act pretty relatively more cleaner around its 200 than something like Amazon does. QQQ, I think, gained it and maybe is coming back to it. Oh, no, QQQ didn't even make it. IWM maybe is the one that gained it. Oh, barely gained it and failed. Yeah, I mean, they're important, of course. Just not the end-all be-all for me. I will say this is the first time that the major indices have come into this kind of like this downward of a slope. Here it was a little bit flat, and we came into it and failed, and then we were able to gain it, and then we came back to it and held. Still downward sloping, but quite flatter than it is right now. So the slope of the line is important to note too. You know, if you're long, you want to see flat to rising, right? So, I don't know. I mean, yes, it's important. Is it the end-all be-all? Absolutely not. We're going back to SPY here real quick. We just want to check on the conditions of our attempted bottoming. Okay, so potentially holding a higher low here. Potentially holding a higher low and made a higher high relative to this one. Have not really made a true higher high yet, but we are starting to make some higher lows. So this is interesting. Starting to get more interesting. See what they do if they come into this anchored VWAP now from the start of the day. Or just, I always say anchored because I always just anchor them. For me, since I like to trade price action, I like to keep the charts as clean as possible. So having a lot of indicators on the chart for me sometimes throws me off and makes me look at stuff that I wouldn't look at. And sometimes that doesn't fare well for me personally. Like doesn't help my trading. So I like to keep the stuff off and then turn it on when it's necessary. So that's why I use the anchored instead of just your standard VWAP. Nothing wrong with using a standard VWAP. I do kind of use it from time to time. Actually, let's throw it on there. Nothing wrong with using any indicator, but, you know, do what makes sense for you. That's what it's all about. Let's turn this off. Okay, let's do this. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. What's the Qs look like? So Qs have not been able to make a new high yet. Let's look at IWM. So yeah, so this is quite clean. This is what you kind of look for. This is really, really kind of textbook. So for anybody who's looking for like interesting bottoming setups, doesn't really know how to find them, here are your main points that you're looking for on a nice little bottoming setup. Falling wedge, right? So we're kind of continuously making lower highs. Price action is tightening. We're making lower lows, but RSI is increasing. So we've got that divergence. We get a nice break out of that falling wedge and we gain a high. We make a new high relative to kind of the top of the wedge, which is about here. And here's where you make your new high. What do they almost always do? Once they do that, they almost always come back and test that breakout. It's right here. So you never know when they're going to do this breakout. So you can't, it's hard to buy it, right? Because you just don't know when that's going to happen. But once they've done it and then they come back and they retest, this is usually a lower risk opportunity. And also, what did they do? They put in a higher low there too. So slowly changing the trend, right? The trend is We're down, we're making lower lows, lower lows, lower lows, lower lows, and then all of a sudden we get a break. We make a new high, we come back, we test. The low, we hold, make a higher low. It's a really good spot to put a stop, right? Really good spot to take an opportunity long, really good spot to put a stop. The reason why it's a good spot to take an opportunity long is simply because your stop is well defined. You know, you could stop below the previous low. You can stop down here. And then you've got a lot of room for a potential retrace back higher. Now, whether or not it'll work, we don't know. But it doesn't look bad to me. It doesn't look bad to me. And again, like I said, you've got a lower low. You guys, these graphics are a trip. I'm going to talk about these graphics for a second. But first, I'm going to take a little opportunity here, I think. I'm going to try along here. We'll see if it works. No guarantees. So our wizard graphics producer fellow, good man, named Parker, he's created these incredible graphics for us. So whenever anything is getting smashed, blowing up, we've got this awesome explosion graphic. If we hit something right on the money, we've got a target. We nailed it. Nailed that trade. I'm going to see if we can get him to create some more of these for us. All right, so interesting what IWM is doing here. This is like a must hold. Let's see if they do it. A really important spot to hold, and quite a bit of volume coming in here. Yeah, interesting. So this could be like a little washout. Notice the big amount of volume that just came in. Might get an interesting move here. Notice also the amount of volume that came in on this this move. Let's move higher. They're trying to hold that low. They kind of double bottomed it. Yeah, so I would keep, if I just tried a long here, I'm gonna keep my stops really tight. I'm gonna keep my stop pretty much on the low that was just put in. 19, what is this? Well, 194.98. That's where my stop is gonna be. And I could get stopped out. That's okay. Ah, I just typed in 1 and 2 on my side. That's funny. And it just caused both of the graphics to go off. So if that ever happens, it's because I'm typing in numbers on my end. I still am of the assumption. What's up, Jonathan? Jonathan, my man, how are you? Jonathan Wage from Traders Post here, hanging out. Thanks for being here, buddy. Roman, my guy. Do I think the sell-off on Apple is overdone? Jonathan's got the nicest farm in Tennessee, I think. If you follow him on social media, the man posts pictures of his farm, and it's just unreal looking. Very jealous of your farm, sir. Actually, here, okay, before I talk about Apple, let's do some things. First of all, anybody here who is not a TrendSpider user that wants to be? Considering it, you're on the fence, you're thinking, yeah, man, TrendSpider's pretty cool. How come I haven't signed up for it yet? Well, you've been waiting for this moment. 25% discount right there for you. This is on any account that we have. So if you're interested in being a TrendSpider user, you've been waiting for an opportunity to get a little bit cheaper, that is your opportunity. Use that coupon. The second you click on that coupon, the timer starts. You have 5 days to open an account. If you do not open an account within 5 days, that coupon is no longer valid. So keep that in mind. Next thing. Here's a link to our Discord. We've got a TrendSpider Discord now. Users sharing ideas back and forth. It's good vibes. Come hang. Chris, what is my position size on IWM? Is that what you're asking? I bought one contract, so I'm playing it very, very small. Because I could be wrong. I don't have a ton of confidence in this. I know that's not technically proper. I know that I should have 3 with 3 targets above. But I'm just playing it small because that's what I feel comfortable with right now. So just one contract, one micro, M2K. What else, guys? What is this? Oh, I know what this is. Actually, I think I know what this is. Yes. Okay, so last thing. This is a link to our live stream calendar. Anytime I'm live on the internet, talking shop, talking to other traders, what have you, that calendar is going to let you know. So if you'd like to subscribe to it, you can. We update it pretty often. Britsu, man, I have to say, TrendSpider has definitely helped my trading as well. I'm glad to hear that it's helped your trading. How has it helped your trading? I'm curious to know. What about the platform do you find helpful for you personally? You're thinking AMD calls for next week. Tricky day to be buying calls. Remember, it's Friday. You've got 2 days of weekend here coming up. So just be mindful of that. You know, I mean, I'm not saying you aren't mindful of that, but it's something to consider. So where are we at here on AMD? Just turning off some stuff so I can kind of see a little bit better. So they kind of failed it right where they would in a downtrend. Came right back into those previous highs here, and we're not able to make new ones. It's not the greatest look. Now that does not mean that they won't continue higher here in the weeks to come. They certainly can. You know, you almost have some divergence here. I mean, I guess technically if we were to look bigger time frame, let's do that. It's not quite there on the bigger time frame. So much like I've talked about here this morning, I've talked about it in quite a few instances. You got these big green candles that price never comes back into. My eye cannot unsee this 58.86 level. Well, what's it going to take for AMD to get back there? I don't know. Catastrophe, maybe. It doesn't necessarily have to come back there. But it's something that I'm watching. Yeah, you know, I would let. Personally, I would wait on any contracts for anything until Monday, because you just don't know. You've got OPEX today, right? So there's gonna be hijinks. There's gonna be some manipulation. And you just don't know. You got the weekend. Why buy contracts today? You lose 2 days. Premiums are probably going to be juiced, at least to some degree. Roman, I never got to your Apple question. I'm going to get there. I promise. So, yeah, I mean, sure, you can buy calls if you want to, but like, I don't know. I don't see a good reason for it. I would just wait and see what they do. Because they've got some stuff to do here still to the downside. They've got some stuff they could do. Namely, kind of this untested spot right in here around 92, which kind of jives with your anchored VWAP from the lows. And if you think about it, you know, you do have these lows here. Probably got a lot of stops down here. If there's any weakness next week, where might they target? They might target all the stops down here. So you might get a move back below 93.62 just for them to turn it back and go higher. So I don't know. No reason to be in. I wouldn't be in calls for next week right now. Now, there is the chance. I mean, this thing's looking super, super weak right now. Yeah, it looks like they're having a tough time today. That's for sure. They're going back to test the lows again. Not a good look. Not a good look for anything, really. IWM, my little sad position, might be about to get stopped out. This is why we have defined stops, though, you know? Again, kind of like what we were just looking at on Facebook. How many times price going to test this level? How many times can it test it before it gives up? I mean, it's pretty much a must-hold type of spot as far as the price action today is dictating. Trying to hold this low, though. If they lose this, they could really kind of just continue lower. And it looks like that's kind of what they want to do. They do have a gap to fill. Quite a big gap to fill. Two tests ago, this was a hold your nose and buy spot, you know, down in here. That retest that we talked about. But now I just don't know if it is. Now it seems kind of more like they're more likely to take it lower. Because it's just like with a move to the upside, you know, you tag a level enough, eventually you're probably going to push through it. Well, tag a level enough to the downside, you're probably going to push through it. So, I don't know. My expectation here is not great anymore. And y'all can see they weren't able to make another new high. So maybe they needed to go make another low to try and bounce it again. We'll see. Must hold spot here. SPY, same deal. But we kind of got that look a little bit, right? We got a falling wedge. The only thing we don't have is really a new high. But they broke out of it. They came back. They tested it and held it. So there was a little entry right here. But it's just so weak. It just seems like they may take in another leg lower. SPY also has that gap below. Okay, so Apple. Oops, that's not Apple. Do I think the sell-off on Apple is overdone? Well, no, I don't. But also, I guess it depends on your time frame. You know, Apple is obviously one of the strongest names in the market. You don't want to see it fail here. You kind of expect it to fail here because technically we are in a downtrend, right? You've got a high here. You've got a lower high here and a potential lower high here. You have a low, a lower low, a lower low, a lower low, a lower low. These are all, this is just exactly what a downtrend is, right? Lower highs, lower lows. So, yeah, I just got stopped out on my IWM long. So no, I don't think the sell-off is overdone. I think it could totally continue selling off. But it depends on the time frame that you're playing, right? On the hour, or on the 15-minute here. Coming into a, you know, an important pivot low. Maybe they hold it. They've kind of already lost this one. They made a new low relative to that one. It also has a gap, has two gaps below. They could fill. I don't know. It really, truly, it just depends on your time frame, because one time frame may be totally oversold and it may be totally overdone, and another time frame may not be even close. Looks like, let's go to the Qs here. Qs making new daily lows. Yeah, so Qs are kind of the leader of the pack today as far as moving lower is concerned. Everything's kind of trailing the Qs. We go to IWM. They have not yet, but looks like they might be trying to. So what that volume that came in might have been, that might have been some market makers prepping for a move lower. Quite more volume now on this breakdown. Actually, most volume we've seen all day against the open. One will be a winner, one will go to zero. Matt, I mean, you can't... I don't know. What's hard about that is buying them at the right time. I really think at some point they're going to go higher here. I kind of think they have to for options expiry. Of course, I could be wrong, but I feel like this sell-off is not going to last all day. We'll see. It's not a good look. You got volume on this breakdown. We did have lots of stops just below this low. It's not where mine was. Mine was below this low. But lots of stops just got taken out, which helps with the volume. Yeah, Chewy, for sure. It's all about the dollar. Dollars running, stocks are not. Thoughts on Tesla? We went over this a little bit ago. Britzy was suggesting maybe we have a little double top. And it could be. Really would have liked to have seen them make a higher high relative to this one, but they did not. It's an important pivot high. Took us all the way down to those lows, right? We really wanted to see them gain this, and they still absolutely could. They're trying to hold. So for me, this 845 level is pretty important, and I would be trading against it. And what I mean by that is if this thing breaks, if we break this 845 area, I'd be looking for short opportunities on the bounce back. Those short opportunities may not be, like, I may not be in those shorts for very long, but that's what I would be looking for. If they hold this, then I would be expecting them to come back and test these highs again. So for me on Tesla, I would be my range. My range would be kind of these highs and this low, and I would be playing in and around them. Initially getting back into this area, I would think it would hold sooner than the low here. I would think it'd be holding closer to, I don't know, in here maybe 870. So maybe depending on market strength, overall market strength would try along around 870. Pretty tight stop for that, but we'd really want to see this low hold. They come back into it, so could maybe potentially try another long there. 844, 837, somewhere in there. I don't know. 835. Wherever this low is, I guess I could hover over it and see. 838. Relatively lower risk, only because you have a nice stop. If they lose this low and take it lower, you got 800. And you've got 752. Could come into play at some point. You have a gap up. So you have a gap down here to fill still. Well, Britsu, I'm so glad that TrendSpider has helped your trading. That's really great to hear. Yeah, sometimes Tesla has a little bit of a mind of its own, right? I mean, it's such a popular name to trade. Hey, it could be a double top, but we'll just see. We're just looking at, is it making higher highs? Is it making higher lows? If it's doing both of those things, then, you definitely think it's probably going to continue doing those things. Think we get any bounce on the 30 on the QQQ? The 30 what? And on what time frame? 30 SMA, 30 EMA, 30 what? And what time frame? Yes, they're just taking this thing lower. It's still divergent. Right? It's still divergent. Divergences don't always work, but it is still divergent in the sense that we're making lower lows. RSI is increasing. So it's something to be mindful of. It's something that we're watching. So now, if we're looking for longs, we want to kind of gain. We want to make a new high, come back in, make a higher low at some point. That's what we're looking for. They did it on a small time frame. For anybody just tuning in, we were kind of keeping our eye on kind of the divergence that we were seeing between price and RSI. We were looking for opportunities. I guess Qs wasn't a good one. IWM was, I think, the best one. Yeah. SPY kind of did it. IWM was the best example for those just tuning in. Always looking for nice falling wedge patterns. Got levels of interest. This is your relative falling wedge pattern. Lower lows, lower highs, RSI increasing. Make a move, make a new high. Come back and test. This is your clean place to take a long, try on a long. And it would have yielded a couple of, depending on how you played it, wouldn't have been a bad trade. Just pretty weak today, just cannot make new highs, and so they send it lower. So this is Facebook in reverse. Actually, no, this is Facebook exactly what I'm talking about on a very, very small time frame. Can't remember who was asking about Facebook. Maybe it was Chewy. You know, if this is Facebook and this is your 153 level, at some point, price cannot make new highs and it comes back in, it's going to fail. And that's exactly what it did. Test, 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 test. It held 4 times. And on the 5th time, on the 5th day, the level did not hold and we make a whole leg lower. So keep that in mind with your Facebook idea. Apple on the, or I'm sorry, QQQ on the 30-minute time frame. So I'm just going to remove everything. Big important low. Right there, right? Where do you think where do you think stops are? Probably just below it. So, what we might see price come down into it, take out a bunch of stops, and then turn back. Everybody getting super, super bared up into that gap. That could happen. Right? Come down in, take out all of the stops, and then turn it back. Come back in to maybe test the gap from today. Certainly possible. To me, I would probably try a long there. You lost this low. So you got to assume it's probably going to go for this one. I mean, it's not necessarily what's going to happen. We'll see here, right? You lost this low. So they could, I mean, they just took out a bunch of stops here. You had a bunch of people who had stops below this low. So they just took out a bunch of them. Maybe they can gain it. If they can, then we might look for a move back in to test it and see. And if they can hold it and then gain it again, make a new high, that would be interesting. For now, I would just sit on my hands and wait. What's up, James? How are you today, sir? So this is what I'm watching, Roman. I'm watching for them to lose this low, or at least test it. Make a wick down through it. On the QQQ. Going to the SPY here. Let's see what's up with SPY. SPY's got the same candle right here. So it's a little bit ahead. He's so gappy. You like the hat? Thanks. Appreciate it. Same spot here. Divergent. It is divergent. But we'll wait and we'll see what they do. It is only an hour and a half into the day. A lot can still happen. If you're just tuning in, thank you for being here. I'm Jason. I'm here on Mondays, on Wednesdays, and sometimes on Fridays. I thought it'd be nice to be here today. I go back and forth with Fridays. Thought it'd be nice to be here today, though, with OPEX. If you're just tuning in, if you're not a TrendSpider user, I would like to offer you a branch an olive branch, a TrendSpider olive branch of peace in the form of a 25% coupon. It's right there in chat. This 25% coupon is good on all TrendSpider accounts. You can get the cheap one. You can get the middle of the road one. You can get the expensive one. And you can get 25% off any of them. We offer lots and lots of tools that you can utilize in your technical analysis. I know that I keep things quite simple here on the platform, but there are many, many tools that you can use. Auto analysis tools. This thing automatically draws the fib sequence for me. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to wonder, where are the fib levels? What are the important fib levels? It's going to show me automatically. This thing automatically draws trend lines for me. I'm not much of a... I like to draw horizontal lines. I don't draw too many diagonals, but I know lots of traders that do these diagonal trend lines. This thing's going to automatically draw them for you. It's going to draw you the most mathematically precise trend lines that exist, the most mathematically powerful ones that exist on the chart at any given time, on any given time frame. That's a pretty sweet little tool to make your analysis easier. Our job here at TrendSpider is to make your analysis easier. The reason why we create the tools that we create is so that you can do less, so that you have to do less. We've got these funky things called heat maps. I personally am a big fan of the horizontal ones. Horizontal heat maps look for price consolidation. This is the closest thing to kind of the way that I look at charts, right? I look for price consolidation. I look for prices made the same highs or same lows over a period of recurring candles. Whenever I find that, I look for those areas to act as support or resistance, because that's what tends to happen. Automatically draws those levels for you. Anywhere price is consolidated, it's going to automatically draw these heat map areas for you. So you can get an idea of where, if price is increasing or decreasing, where it might find pause to the upside or to the downside. Automatic candlestick pattern recognition. No more questioning whether something is an engulfing candle or a doji or a hammer. Just turn on the patterns. Select the candles that you want it to discover for you. And it will do that. It will automatically highlight them. Pretty sweet. That functionality opens up the ability to scan for candlestick patterns. You can backtest candlestick patterns. You can be alerted on candlestick patterns. Lots of different ways you can get alerts on the platform. It's one of the main tools that I use is the alerts. For example, if I'm talking to you guys, but I want to know if price tags this low on IWM, I'm going to right click on that horizontal line. I'm going to say create alert on it. I'm going to choose a touch bounce. I don't want to know if it breaks through because then I'm not wildly interested. Actually, I do want to know if it breaks through. So I'm going to be alerted on a breakthrough, a touch, or a bounce here. Note that these all have unique definitions. They're all different. They do not mean the same thing. Conventional wisdom would suggest that in order for something to break through, wouldn't it have to touch it? Well, theoretically, yes. But the definition of touch is not the same thing as the definition of breakthrough. So you do want to make sure you understand the difference between these definitions. If you're not sure which one to use, you could just use all of them. If you just want to be alerted when price gets there, usually I'll use a touch bounce. But we'll use breakthrough here too. Sensitivity is the dollar amount plus or minus the line that the alert fires within. So you can adjust how closely price needs to get to the line for you to be alerted. If you want to be alerted only if price actually touches, bounces, or breaks through the line itself, you can turn the sensitivity off. And then it's going to only alert you if price actually touches, bounces, or breaks through that specific dollar amount, 193.15. Turn the sensitivity up, you notice that the area around the line gets bigger. And it says alert fires within plus minus a certain amount of cents around the line. So I'll get alerted within 74 cents of 193.15. So 193.91. Or no, not 91. 80. 89. Yeah, 89. 193.89 in this case. You can adjust that for whatever makes sense for you. I'll usually turn it up just a smidge because price could front run. This will catch that front run if price comes close but doesn't quite get there. That's what the sensitivity is for. You can determine your confirmation candle. This is how quickly you receive the alert. So even if you're putting the alert, like right now I'm on the hourly time frame, but what if I want to receive the alert faster than the hourly candle? Because you're going to get the alert when the candle closes that performs the action that you're looking to be alerted on. You can get that down to the 5 minutes. So if a 5 minute candle breaks through, touches, or bounces within 34 cents of this line, I'm going to get an alert at the close of that 5 minute candle. You can choose to use extended hours data or not. I tend not to. You can choose a name. Consider long. You can leave a note. Choose your expiration. This is how long the alert lives in your system. 3 different tiers of subscription levels on the platform. They offer 3 different styles of functionality in terms of how long an alert can live in your system. The minimum is 14 days. The maximum is 90, depending on your plan. Today, I just want to be alerted today if this happens. So I'm just going to choose one day. I'll choose multiple triggers, though. That way I can get an alert multiple times. Price could break through, lose, come back, break through again. What if I want to be alerted on both of those instances? The way to do that is through multiple triggers. So I'll choose 2 triggers, create alert. Now an alert is on this line. I could walk away from IWM and go somewhere else, look at something else, and I'm still going to get that alert to let me know on IWM. And that alert is going to come to me in a multitude of ways. I can get that alert sent to my cell phone via text. I can get it. It comes straight to the platform. It's going to be a loud buzzing sound on the platform. I can also get it emailed to me. Multiple chart view is coming, Lori. It doesn't exist yet. I'm happy to explain why it doesn't exist yet. I know that it's something that many users have asked for over the time that we've existed. And I'm very, very excited to announce that it is coming. We are building it. It is essentially built. It has not been launched yet. So it's coming. There is some alternatives. You can open multiple windows for sure using your multiple workspaces. Again, the amount of workspaces you have is dependent on the plan. So it's either 2, 4, or 6, depending on your plan. There is an alternative though, Lori. I'll show you. It's in an indicator called Price Compare. So if we go to Price, grab Price Compare. Price Compare loads up at the bottom of your screen here as a lower indicator. And what you could do, click on the 3 dots next to Price Compare and choose a symbol. Let's say we're looking at SPY and we also want to keep an eye on QQQ. Say apply. And now we've got the QQQ chart here just below the SPY. Now the thing is, I can't do any sort of analysis. Like I can't put indicators on this. I can draw lines, which works for me. You know, I'm a horizontal line drawer. So this is really just to observe price action and price action comparison. But that multi-chart view or the multi-ticker view is coming. So you won't have to utilize Price Compare anymore once it comes. IWM 178 put for 9.9. I don't know, Chris. I don't know. I don't even think it's going to be a few months. I mean, our founder Dan has been talking about it and tweeting about it a little bit recently. So I don't think it's going to be months. I think it's probably coming sooner than that. I don't have a timeline. Chris, first of all, like I said, I would not be buying contracts today unless there's 0 DTE. If you want to be a DGen, you want to gamble, sure. Buy some contracts that are set to expire today. I wouldn't be buying contracts for next week or 2 weeks out or 3 weeks out right now. Personally, I wouldn't. Because you got 2 days. You got the weekend. You're going to lose 2 days on those contracts. And if price goes against you, which it could, I'm not saying it will, it could. If price goes against you, then you're going to get hit. on the decay. So I would wait personally until Monday to make some decisions in that regard. Now, does that mean you'll miss a move? Sure, it could. You know, you may get a gap down Monday. These are the risks that we take, sir. Yeah, Lori, absolutely. I mean, that's really what I'm here for. I'm here to talk shop and, you know, look at charts and have fun. But also, I'm here, more importantly, as a TrendSpider ambassador. You know, I'm here to answer any and all questions that you might have. So if you've got TrendSpider questions, I am your man. I'm happy to help answer those questions. Interesting amount of volume coming in here on IWM. Where are they bringing in this volume? What is going on? Interesting. Untested spot. I might try another long here. Not saying it's going to work. We'll let it play out a little bit. But it might be an interesting spot if they're able to hold this low. You know, technically it's a little higher low. It's just a little 15-minute time frame, but it's a higher low that we have not come back to test. Isn't it? This is kind of like what we're talking about. Big green candle. Never came back into it. Some folks would call that a fair value gap. That is a thing for some traders, fair value gaps. We have an indicator for the fair value gap. It's pretty cool. A fair value gap is defined specifically as a candle. It's created, it's a 3-candle sequence, and it's created when a candle, you have a big green candle, you have your high of the candle that came before it and your low of the candle that came after it. So this is your low of the candle that came after it. This is your high of the candle that came before it. Price doesn't come back in and retest. So you create essentially a little, there are only buyers here. There's not, it's not an even distribution of buyers and sellers. So sometimes price can come back into these areas and find support resistance. Whether or not this one will hold, this is just a very small one on a very small time frame. It could be kind of insignificant. But we do anticipate these levels coming into play. So we've got a very interesting fair value gap up here, up at the highs. Price never came back into it. We would anticipate at some point price could come back into that. You can see here we had one. Price makes a move higher, comes back in, finds perfect support right at the bottom of it, and then continues. Here, you make one to the downside. Price comes back into it, fills it. They're not always great short and long opportunities, but they are something to keep mind of, be on the lookout for. I'm always looking for them. It's actually very kind of similar to some of the analysis that I do on my own, like just the price stuff. Sonia, SPY target 422.65 done. Now 406.8 is pending. Sonia has the crystal ball, according to Sonia. Now, what comes first, Sonia, is the question. Does 406 come before a retest or not? We can check cost. What's up with cost? Looking awful strong. That's for sure. However, I would be very, very concerned. Yeah. This is interesting. So me personally, what I see, he might be making that shoulder. The only reason why I think that This is actually really interesting. What don't you have right here? Do you not have a new high? You lost the high. So they took you all the way down. And they tried to hold a very important low. This area in here. They tried to hold it, see? But what happened? They failed it. They gapped below it. And yes, they have gained it back. They have. But 2 warning shots, in my opinion. 2 warning shots. And the first is that they failed this low. Well, actually, the first is that they made a lower high here. Excuse me. And then the second is that they failed this low. So for me, what I would expect in this case is exactly what it did. I would expect them to come back up here. Could they bring it higher? Yeah, I mean, they could. They could bring it even up in here. This hasn't really been done yet. So my thinking is, and again, just one guy, and I could be wrong, but my thinking is a move into this area would be an opportunity to go short. Yeah. That's my thinking. But again, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. You also had some big negative divergence there on that new high. You see that? You got lower highs on RSI against higher highs on price. Usually negative divergence does the opposite of what positive divergence does, right? Yeah, this to me looks like an excellent opportunity for a short. Whether or not it's right now, I wouldn't necessarily take a short position immediately, but watch and see what this does over the coming days. Because it could definitely fail here, and I would kind of anticipate that it will. What are some key? Where's some key stuff? You got your 200-day moving average. I mean, it is, you know, it looks good. 200-day moving average looks good. But that's what I think. Melly. Mercado Libre. Ooh. Coming back in to fill that gap, huh? It's actually kind of getting spicy. I mean, really nice pattern down here. I'd be looking for this. Because again, you know, just those previous highs that we made a move, that we broke out of, I'd be looking for it to come back into them. So 840 to, I mean, 890, that's a big range. They could try and hold it. Where's our anchored VWAP from this low? Yeah. But I don't know. I would be more keen on 840 or so. You're very welcome, Amit. Happy to do it. Yeah, so here we go. They're trying to now make a new. They're trying to put the low in. Looks like on the indices here. Oh, we've said it before. All right. So let's see where they go. Again, I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. This is kind of what we're looking at, right? Looking at that wedge. And again, what do we want to see? We want to see We do have. It's light, but it's positive. Some positive D. We really want to see them push and make a new high here. 423. We want to see them above 423, 43. If they can make a new high, then we could maybe get this ball rolling. Get up above, come back in, test somewhere where we broke out, depending we get a breakout now. And then maybe we can start building the right-hand side. That's what I'm looking for. Go to IWM. IWM came right into those lows. I mean, to the penny. Well, where are they? Right into that same kind of spot on IWM. This is what we were talking about, right? They held it right there. So that's interesting. No positive D on the 15. On the 5, however, we are seeing it. Little fair value gap above. Maybe they bring it up into that gap and then turn it around. Maybe they don't. We will be watching. What else, guys? Any other names you guys are watching? Anything else you guys are interested in taking a look at? Any curiosities regarding the TrendSpider platform? Inflation trade back on. Check out DBC. Remove all this stuff. Automated trend lines on the daily. I mean, definitely holding that low. Rising long-term trend line, aren't they? Let's kind of take a look at what they did technically. They barely made a new low. Index tracking fund. What exactly is this? Chewy, what is this product exactly? I don't really know too much about this product. If we go to a weekly, yeah, I don't know. That's pretty tricky. It's a weird looking chart. Oh, let's go to a monthly. Tracks commodities. Gotcha. Well, what they have not done yet, to be fair. Absolutely, Amit. Thanks for the kind words, man. We appreciate that. You got a high, you got a lower high, and you got a lower high. And you have a low, you have a lower low, and you have a lower low. So what do we need to go higher? We need a new high. 32 bucks. They need 32 bucks. Will they get it? I have no idea. Amit, we do not charge for real-time data. Real-time data comes with all of our accounts. Now, we are going to be adding real-time futures soon. And when we do, I do think we're going to be charging for real-time futures. I don't think it's going to be very much. I think it's going to be pretty cheap, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be charging for it. But no, we do not charge for real-time data. But the price tiers, if you go to TrendSpider.com and go to plans and pricing, the tab, I'll actually link you real quick. There you go. You'll see the breakdown of the tiers, how much they cost, and what each tier, how they compare with each other. And I'm happy to talk through any of that stuff with you. I know there's a lot of information there on as far as like how they compare. Amit, if you're not already a user, it sounds like maybe you might not be. If you're not, here's you a 25% discount if you'd like it. Would love for you to take advantage of it. Rob Daisy, what's up? Hope you're well. Watching XLE, trying to get to the next volume shelf. Let's take a look at XLE. So there are things about XLE that I like, and there are things that I do not like. And it really just depends on your time frame. But what I don't like is that they made a new low. All right, we're looking at the monthly here. So here's your previous big important low, and then what they do, they lost it over here. So what did they do? They tested. Right? And you failed. That is a concern for me. That's a big concern for me. Okay, so that's big time frame. Now let's talk little time frame. We take that same idea and we smudge it down to small time frames where we lost lows. Well, here was a low, brought us all the way up. Now we failed. We have not come back into it. So this might be an area of interest. 84.34, 84.38 might be an area of interest. You can take that down to this too. Haven't really tested this. 83. Haven't even tested this really. 81.5. And then you got your final guy up here. 89.92. So on the shorter term, and on the shorter term, we're looking at our big pivotal lows right here, and then we lost them in here, right? Made new lows. So that would kind of be my expectation. My expectation is, yeah, we could get a move higher, but I'm not personally expecting new highs. We could get new highs. We certainly could. But I wouldn't be expecting it, because on the bigger time frames, we've already done the thing that we needed to do. We've already tested the big thing. So now what I think this is this is just a retrace. Oops, we'll do this. I think there's just a technical retrace. And they could bring it all the way back. I mean, they really could. They can. Then they probably will. They'll probably bring it as close back as they can, up into those previous highs, somewhere in here, maybe 90 bucks. If I saw this at 90 bucks, I would probably be trying to short it. My short may not work there, but that's probably where I'd be trying to do it. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to be about it. Oops. Short XLE. This could take some time. I'm going to give it some time. And again, I may change my mind when price gets there, but at least I create the alert. they'll let me know. You know, platform will let me know if it gets there. I'll know. I'll be watching this either way. But I'm always doing this sort of stuff. You know, just planning, plotting and planning. I think there's more likelihood this thing continues higher. Although it is coming into, you know, it is coming into some places where it could cool off. And also, what's it doing? You've got some negative divergence here. Again, doesn't necessarily mean it has to play out, but you got higher highs being made. You got lower highs being made. But it's trying to, RSI is trying to break out here. So that could start being negated, but still, you're making higher highs, you're making lower highs on RSI. Something to watch. Looks like the indices are starting to catch a bid now. I secretly took a little long position on IWM again a little bit ago. So now we see what they're going to do. They could come into these lows that failed. Looks like that's what they might be trying to do. Would expect a little bit of resistance somewhere in there. Right? I mean, you got to expect a little bit of something. You got to expect price to react in here. So it comes back to this 194 level. And this is really clean, guys. This is like super, super clean. This is a really great, honestly, like, and I've only really started looking for these recently, so I'm not going to try and play like I'm some big expert on this, but this is something I've been watching a lot. You can look for this in moves to the upside and moves to the downside. You know, you got that fallen wedge, right? And oftentimes you'll see something that looks something like this. You see how it's making new lows, RSI is climbing, and then you start making a new high. You make a higher low, you gain this high here, and as soon as you gained this high right here, what did? They sold it off back to the breakout point, and then they held the breakout. And this is your low risk long with your stops down here. It's a really great way to play this setup. You see these setups on all kinds of time frames. You see them on to the downside and to the upside. They come both directions. I love this setup. Always looking for it. You could have played it twice today and had honestly, like, you could have just done this and this would have been easy peasy all day. And I'll show you. For anybody who just tuned in, we'll take a look here. We're looking at this. We're looking at this. What do you see in both scenarios? This is a little price action lesson, a little accumulation lesson. What do you see in both scenarios? You see price making lower lows. You see RSI making higher lows. You see a move up and out. Right? That's your move up and out. Here's your move up and out here. And then what do you see? Here's your old high-ish. I'm giving away secrets here, guys. This is good stuff. This is your old high. Actually, no, this is your old high. Sorry. Right? And what did they do in both scenarios? They come in. They build you a high. They get you a new one. Clone this. Yeah, this one was much smaller, but they did make a new one. They did make a new high right here. And then, as soon as they make a new high, they pull it back, and they retest where the breakout was, which was essentially right around in here and right around in here. And your low risk entry is right here on that retest. You could do this every day. This could be your one thing that you do. And this can work. Find setups that work for you. And repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. And I'm telling myself that as much as I'm telling you that, because I have as much trouble with that as anybody. But darn it, they gave us 2 great setups today. And inside of this, if we go to a bigger time frame, we might be seeing something similar. Let's go to the 5 here. Yeah, so look on the 5. Same idea, same exact idea, but hasn't finished yet, right? This is why when people talk about markets being fractal, this is what they talk about. So we might be getting a breakout here. We do have that negative or positive divergence, right? We got those lower lows. We got those higher lows. As soon as we're done talking about this, I'm gonna show you some cool tricks that you can use on the platform to look for this stuff. So now what are we looking for? The same thing that we were looking for in that 1 minute time frame. We're looking for those previous highs. You know, somewhere in here, 195. We're gonna look for them to come up in. They probably are gonna fail it. Then maybe they make a new high. If they make a new high, then we look for them to come back into the breakout area down in here. And so on a much bigger time frame, which isn't much bigger, this is the 5 minute versus the 1 minute, you can start thinking about this trade. We know the breakout area is about here. Maybe we want to be alerted here. There's a couple of different trades we could take, right? If we believed in this idea, maybe we, want to gamble. We could try and trade this up to this 195 area. Or we could let it get there, maybe make a new high. We could short it. Right? Because we think it's probably going to fail once it gets there. It's doing that on the smaller time frames. Or we can sit around and we can wait for it to come back in and test and see if it holds a higher low. And if it does, then we could take it long. So lots of different ways to think about trading. Now, to get to using the platform to find this, well, what have we just defined? Specifically, the first thing we've defined is the divergence. So maybe we want to know how to find divergence. Well, divergence is price making lower lows, RSI making higher highs, or the opposite of that. Right? So let's define that. I've got the scanner up. Let's see if we can find some stuff that's doing this. In order to define that price is making lower lows, we've got our scanner open. We click add parameter here. We say condition. We choose price, the price option, because we're talking about price. And we can use whatever time frame we want. Let's use the 5 minute. Price low is less than price 5 minute low. So now we've got a 5 minute low is less than another 5 minute low, but we need to define what candles we're referring to. We could do that by clicking right here where it says last. When we click where it says last, it comes up with 0 candles ago. So last and 0 candles ago are the same thing, and they're referring to the current candle. If we want to see the current candle's low is less than some other candle's low, we have to define what candle we're talking about. Let's just say 10 candles ago. We don't know. We're kind of just like loosely putting together an idea here. So consider that, remember that, and use this to think about, use this as a building block to build your own stuff. Well, we were looking for multiple lower lows being made, right? So let's do another one. Let's do another condition or another parameter. So we'll say condition price 5 minute low is less than price 5 minute low. Well, now we are comparing on the first line here. We're comparing the current candle's low to the candle 10 candles ago's low, right? Well, now we want to compare the 10 candles ago's low to maybe, let's say, 20. So now you got multiple lower lows being made. Well, at the same time, we want RSI increasing. So we're going to do kind of the opposite of what we just did for price, but for RSI. So we're going to say condition. RSI is an indicator. So we select indicator, say 5 minute. Relative strength is greater than indicator 5 minute relative strength, right? And so we want to see on the current candle, we want to see that it's actually greater than the RSI 10 candles ago. And we want to do this again for 10 and 20, right? So say indicator 5 minute RSI is greater than indicator 5 minute RSI. And we'll say, oops, and we'll say 20. There's your divergence, right? This is going to look for divergence occurring right now, this second. Now we could just do this. Generally speaking, whenever I'm running scans, I always like to include some minimums, what I call my minimums. Minimums are minimum requirements that I am interested in trading. I will not take a trade, generally speaking, on something that's less than 10 bucks. So let's add that. So we'll say condition, price close. We'll just use the daily for this. Price close greater than a constant value of $10. All right, so this is going to weed out all stocks below 10 bucks. Let's also use a volume criteria because when I trade stocks, I usually am trading options. So I want something that trades a lot, something that has quite a bit of volume. So I'm going to say indicator. I'm going to say daily. I'm going to search volume. I'm going to use the volume MA. This is the average volume. Volume comma vol is the volume for a single candle. So I'm going to use MA so that we're just looking at the average. And I'm going to say it's greater than a constant value. I'm going to say. So that means that over the past 20 days, on average, this stock or any stocks meeting this criteria, they have to have over 1 million shares traded per day. I'm going to turn the current candle on. This makes sure that I'm looking at the current candle. So if I'm referring to, if any conditions or parameters here where I have this last, we're talking about the current candle. So today's daily, right? The current 5 minute. If I have this current candle toggled off, we're specifically referring to the most recent candle that closed. So if I'm using a daily time frame here and I have the current candle toggled off, it's going to be looking at yesterday's volume data. It's going to be looking at yesterday's close. So something to keep in mind, I always have the current candle toggled on. And then we just need to choose our scan through list. I'll look at the NYSE and then I'll look at the NASDAQ. Let's see if we get anything. Yeah, a couple names, actually quite a few names. Interesting, lots of names meeting this criteria. AI is down the most today. A little bit of positive D. GME is meeting this criteria. Interesting. And you could add all kinds of things to this, but this helps us find these things in the moment. Here's what I'm going to do. We're going to call this RSI dive. RSI scan. We're going to say Friday show. Another really, really cool feature of TrendSpider. If you're a user, you can have this scan. So I'm going to share it with you. Maybe you guys are interested in looking for these things on your own. I would encourage you guys play around, change the candle, the time between the candles. I used 10 and 20. You could use 5 and 10. You could use 15 and 30. You could use whatever you want, really. For all of our TrendSpider users, there's a link to the scan I just made. Load it up. Look for this stuff. You can find it on your own. Change the time frames, Change it to 1 minute. See what you find. Fun to do. Scanner's awesome. Helping us find cool setups. Nevin, my man, how's it going? Nate, what's up? Nate, you're a new investor. What's shorting mean? Shorting means you're betting on the stock to go lower. You bought $500 in stocks today in long term. Cool. HD, Apple. Should have waited until the end of the day. No, not necessarily. I mean, if you're buying just shares, you can buy those whenever you feel like it. Options in particular are, they decay. Since we've got the weekend coming up, just easier to buy options at the end of on Monday, since you got 2 days decay ahead of you. USO, Nevin. Let's take a look. But yeah, Nate, man, welcome to investing. Are you a TrendSpider user? If you are not yet, and you're looking to become a TrendSpider user, there's you a 25% discount. for you, good sir. USO. Looks like I've done a little work on this. USO doesn't look terrible. Holding that anchored VWAP from this pretty important November 2021 low. Nice bullish engulfing. Yeah. They held higher lows, which is what you want to see. Yeah, man. This doesn't look bad. It's just slow going. That's all. So you're kind of anticipating the move. I would be inclined to wait for it personally, you know. I mean, you have a pretty clear little thing going on here. So I would be inclined to let it break. Maybe make a new high against this one. Would really love to see them make a new high against this one and then come back in. And then we're talking. Then I would be interested. And the only reason why I would personally wait is because I would play options. And I would be worried about exactly this happening. So I guess, I don't know. I mean, you could, of course, you could totally take this move, right? Like you could sell into the move, let it come back. Just depends on how you feel like doing it. Nice, Nevin. Good job, man. Great trade. Mehul. Thoughts on overall market direction? Doesn't seem to be the right time for a full reversal to the upside, in your opinion. Descending triangle on that USO chart, though. Yeah, descending triangles are accumulation patterns. The only thing that's tricky here is that they need to make a new high. You know, they did, yeah. And they're holding higher lows, so we're just kind of, it's almost more like a symmetrical triangle. But we will see. Time will tell. General thoughts on overall market. Well, IWM came right up into the spot. And, you know, I don't recognize your name, Mehul, so you may be new to my stream. But I'm kind of a price action trader. And so I'm always looking for places where price kind of failed. And this was my spot. This was my next big leg higher spot, and it came right up into it. I mean, we've had multiple spots along the way. I'm not going to say that I haven't, you know, and as we've gained them, then we change our spots. Well, here's a spot that needed to get gained, and they have not been able to do so yet. But right now, we're just retracing. Right now, I don't think that this is anything much to be wildly concerned about if you're super bullish. I mean, we have, to be fair, we have made a huge move over the past month. You know, hard to deny the huge move we made. We could definitely come in quite a bit, and it would not be that surprising at all. Let's talk about, I mean, this is textbook. Everything that we've been talking about with the divergence and the falling wedge and all of these things. I mean, what do we have here? You have increasing RSI across all of these lows, and we're starting to try to push. So, you know, next spot that you would want to see is up here, 211 on IWM in particular. Now, could they? Yeah, they could totally come back in and do a lot of stuff, right? Before making it. And then they could even bring it all the way back and still hold it. And the trend would have kind of changed if they do. So a lot can happen here. You know, do I personally think that we're going to just like crater down? I don't. I could be wrong, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. So that's IWM. IWM has been our leader. SPY, the same relative spot on SPY is in here. So that 440-ish, 445-ish level was where I had my eyes. That doesn't mean that it's right. It just, that's where I was looking. I figured if IWM got there, why can't SPY? Why can't the Qs? It's all the same date, April 20th, interestingly. Oops. So in here. Q's almost made it. But it might just be time for them to cool. I mean, everything did gain quite a bit. So now, sure, we could go lower. I'd be looking, you know, we had those pivotal areas in here. These were really important spots. SPY is the clearest. You know, came in here, this ended up being distribution, they took it lower, and then this ended up being accumulation, they took it higher, so they gained. So now we might be looking for this area to hold on SPY, this like 414, 415, maybe come into this gap, hold 412. That could be important. They don't necessarily need to hold this though. They could continue lower. Then you'd look down here, 400. They could very easily bring it all the way back to 400 and hold it and then continue higher. What you don't want to see is you just don't want to see them make a new pivotal low. I mean, you have your big low, you have your next higher low, and then yeah, we've made some swing lows in there. But this move has been pretty powerful. So, you know, maybe this swing low right here is an important one. I would put more importance here, this 398 or 389 on SPY, than I would up here. Because it definitely could fail those and still hold here. If they lose this, this might be kind of interesting. But that's a long way from now. Yeah, that's $30. It's almost 10%. Now, if we lose this low, that would not be great. I don't know. That's kind of where my head's at. You could do the same relative analysis on Qs, right? You have that area. If that doesn't hold, then you look down in here, 295 or so. I think this low, this 294 low, is pretty important. To me, it's more important than this one. So for now, I'm in the camp that this is technical retrace, and I'm not wildly worried yet. What makes me draw levels where I draw levels? Well, I'm just looking for important places where price reacted. You know, here in IWM, you were bottoming out. You made a low, you made a lower low, and then you made higher lows. Right? You had trouble with this spot, and then we were able to gain it. But not only did we gain it, but we kind of came back into it, right? Once we gained it, we came back and we held it too. So old resistance became new support. Pretty classic TA stuff. So that's kind of what I look for. I also look for spots where price makes big moves and never comes back. So any big green or big red candles, which thoroughly, I think, explains why my eye was here, ultimately. Because you have big red candle and price just dropped and it never came back in and did any of that stuff. So that's what it just did. It fell. It lost this spot. Ultimately, it comes back to test. You know, in a perfect world, you really need to gain this. You need to get it above this. This is an important high that we lost. So we need to get above, you know, trend is higher highs and higher lows, or lower highs and lower lows. So if we just think in those terms and we look at big spots where prices made big shifts, we look for places where prices made big shifts. You know, it's a pretty big shift right here. And even still, they got above it, they came back, they tested it, they held it, they went higher, right? So that's kind of what we look for. They can be tricky though. They can be tricky, and they can do things like this where they make lows, relative lows, and then they push and then they never come back in. So like that's why this spot in here is important. 180 is important to me. You could even say kind of in here. It would still be keeping in the current trend if your current trend is starting from essentially from like this base. You know, you made a low, you made a lower low. You made a high, you made a lower high, you made a lower high, but then all of a sudden, guess what we did? Change of trend, we made a higher high. Relative to this one and relative to this one. And we're failing at this one. Redler thinks we go 417.91. Shout out Scott Redler. Love that guy. He's such a sweetheart. He says 419.21. 417.91. Jeez. Oh my God. So he's saying here. Yeah. That would make a ton of sense. Wouldn't surprise me at all. And why is because we've made a move above it, but we haven't come back to it to make sure. This was resistance. It was resistance. We pushed above it. Old resistance becoming new support suggests that we should hold here. If we don't, that tells us something. If we do, that tells us something else. Yeah. I don't know. I just don't think this is the end of the world. I think, yes, we made a strong move. But I'm just not wildly worried yet. I'm not willing to take off my long-term longs. I'd be more looking for adding. Letting it pull back some and then adding. All right, so let's go back real quick. I've been here for 2.5 hours. I am about to dip out. All right, so what do we see now, guys? What didn't we do? We did not make a new high. So that's a concern. You know, for this, I think for this pattern to really work is you really need to make a new high. So we might now expect another continuation lower. We might have to wait a little bit longer. And maybe we never get the move we're really looking for today. SPY, same type of thing, didn't quite make a new high. They tried. They wicked into kind of where, you know, the start of it, but they didn't make it. Doesn't mean they can't still, but pretty weak overall. Yeah, you're very welcome, Mehul. Happy to assist. This is what I'm here for. Let's go back to the Qs and check. Yeah, Qs didn't make it either. Not great. Not great if you're long. All right, guys, so that's it for me. I'm going to clock out here. One last round of information for you guys. Again, anybody who's not a TrendSpider user, I would love for you guys to become a TrendSpider user. There's your 25% discount. Next up, if you're enjoying these live streams that we do and you want to know when we're doing them again, here's our Google Calendar to let you know. If you'd like to get to know other TrendSpider users, maybe you want to share some scanners or chart ideas you have, whatever, here's our Discord. Join. We'd love to have you there. I'm in the Discord. You know, hit me up if you have any questions. You can always hit me up if you have questions. My Twitter handle is @KrutzkyTrades. It's there at the bottom of the screen. I am available all the time, so do not hesitate to reach out to me if you are curious about anything relating to the TrendSpider platform. Discord link is invalid. Oh no. What's that all about? Is it really? Oh, it is. Darn. All right. Sorry about that. Let's see if I can get a new one. Hold on. Let me hit up Sadie. Sadie, can you hook me up with a new Discord? It expires after 7 days. Do you have a new link that I could use? Please? Please, please, please. We'll see if Sadie can hook us up with one. Next week. Here we go. This one should work for you. Thank you, Sadie. Everybody, shout out Sadie. There you go. That should work for you, Mehul. Next week, we will be live again. We'll be live on Monday from 2:30 to 4:30 Eastern Time. We'll be live on Wednesday, 2:30 to 4:30 Eastern Time. We'll be doing the same thing, just hanging out, talking shop, looking at the markets, answering TrendSpider questions, using the tools. Feel free to join. Tuesday night, we will be live on Twitter, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we are live on Twitter, on Spaces. We're talking with traders about their favorite trade setups for the week. This week, or rather next week, next Tuesday, we've got Greg Krupinski. That's G Krupins on Twitter. We've got A Stocks, we've got Bones Trades, and we've got Brand Keo. These guys are all going to be joining us for their top trade ideas of the week. And then on Thursday, we are going to be doing a live charting show here on YouTube, 8 p.m. Eastern, with our good friend Jermaine. He is the Strat Soldier Cyberdog 2 on Twitter. Great guy, great energy. Love Jermaine. He's going to be taking your chart requests. So if you have them, if you want to know what a strat trader sees in your charts, join the show. Come hang out. And that's it for me, you guys. I hope that this has been informative. I've really enjoyed hanging out with all of you. Mehul, thank you for being here. Sammy, baby, appreciate you being here. Chewy, what's happening? Thank you for being here. Nevin, lots of names I recognize. J Pong, Rob Daisy, Nate. Nate, best of luck on your trading journey. I really encourage you to dig deep and learn as much as you can. And happy to answer any questions that you might have about the TrendSpider platform. Amit, thank you for being here, sir. Lori, Chris, Britsu, Jonathan. Stoked to see you in here, Jonathan. Thank you for being here, man. I don't know if you're still here, but thank you for being here. Hope you get some good work done on the farm this weekend. James, Roman, Matt. Who else? Lovers Not Liars. Thank you for being here. Connor, my guy. Manish. Just scrolling up to see who all said hello. Bradley, old Bradley. Thank you for being here, sir. Yeah, that's it. That's everybody. That's everybody said hello. I know that there's others of you that did not say hello, and I'm disappointed that you didn't. You got to say hello. How am I supposed to know? How am I supposed to say hello to you if you don't say hello to me? To everybody who didn't say hello, hello. I hope you guys found this useful. So yeah, that's it. We're going to get out of here. We've got OPEX today. Remember, 2 trillion in options expiring at the end of the day. They're going to go poof. So keep that in mind. And it will be all good. You will stay right on target. You like these graphics, y'all? I love them. They're so fun. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you again on Monday. Goodbye.